And for the 11th time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Reviewing Network Live. We've got a lot of stories to cover this week, and most of these stories are associated to the one big story that happened this week, but we will get to that as we move along. But, of course, I have to do my little disclaimer here. This is a weekly stream of consciousness conversation recording session where we talk about the biggest news stories of the past week, mostly in the world of entertainment. We'll tackle some other topics if we have to, but it's mostly just entertainment news. But these are much longer free-form conversations. That means there's going to be more foul language to them and more just stream of conscious conversations. So if you're offended by the foul language, you might not want to listen, you might want to back away. But if you're up to the task, let's begin the conversation. And we have a lot of conversations to talk about, so let's get to it. And as per usual on this show, we begin with the top 5 weekend box office, which only has one major story to cover. That's the number one film, and it's not for the reasons you might be thinking. But let's run through the top 5 here real quick. We can be real quick on these because we've pretty much delved into most of these movies already. Killers of the Flower Moon was the number 5 film this week. $4.7 million, dropping 32% from last week. Close to $60 million. The budget on this is $200 million, but with award season coming up, it should be considered somewhat of a success regardless. But that $200 million price budget is a little bit concerning. But again, the award season buzz will help in the long run. So will the number 4 film, Priscilla, which actually held up from last week, only dropping 5%, $4.8 million, adding 1,000 more theaters compared to last week, $12.7 million thus far. So, not much more to say about that one. I haven't seen that one yet. Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, $5.9 million, dropping 57% from the previous week, $172.5 million. The worldwide gross for this is up to $240. And then finally, Five Nights at Freddy's, which finally dropped out of the top spot this week to number 2 with $9 million, dropping only about 53%, $127.2 million. This thing cost $20 million to make. It's already made $250 million, so it's a hit regardless. But let's go ahead and talk about the number 1 movie of the week, because this is going to be the big conversation of the week in terms of the future of Marvel Studios, and that is, of course, The Marvels, which was the number 1 film this week. However, it had one of the lowest, if not the lowest, grossing opening of the entire MCU ever since the beginning. This is actually the lowest grossing opening for this, at $47 million, which, I don't know, I need to do some research on this, because I could have sworn maybe Ant-Man was around that same level, but let me just double check here just to make sure. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought the first Ant-Man made around $47 million too, but the first Ant-Man made around $57 million. So yeah, this would make this the lowest grossing opening of the MCU, which, kind of was to be expected. The early buzz going into last week was that this movie was not going to do well because of the negative word of mouth that had come out beforehand, but slowly but surely the word of mouth slowly began to turn positive. There were more positive reviews coming out in terms of the critical reviews, and the audience reception to this, at least if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't recommend you do, but it had a much higher Rotten Tomatoes audience review score than the critic reviews did, even though the cinema score for this was also a B, which is not very good for a film like this. It's definitely not a good opening for this film, and I think it just had too much negativity going into the marketing and the early word of mouth. But once the film came out and people actually did come around to it, I think the word of mouth started to slowly build a little bit, and the film I think did much better than I think it would have been almost a couple days ago, because I think that when the first initial estimates went out, I think they were suggesting maybe $43 million, but $47 million isn't the worst in terms of those early projections. But like I said, it's still not a great opening for this film. And the sad part about it is the movie actually is a ton of fun. Like, I actually went to go see this on Saturday, and I went into it with lowered expectations because of all the word of mouth that I heard beforehand. I came out of that movie really enjoying it, more so than I did the first Captain Marvel, which is not a great film, but I feel like this film played a lot more with the elements that would have made the first film a lot more fun. Like, I love the camaraderie between Brie Larson and Teyonah Parris and Iman Vellani as Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel. I thought they were a ton of fun. I thought the comedy overall worked pretty well. I like that they knew when to be very campy and silly. Like, the cat scene alone just made me say, okay, I love this movie, like as a good, fun movie. It's not a classic movie by any means. It has a ton of flaws to it, but it's just a good, fun movie. Like, it's a good, fun movie you go to see on a Saturday afternoon. You go to a movie theater, you grab a bowl of popcorn, you get yourself a drink, and you just sit back and let the movie just try to entertain you. And the movie, I think, did a pretty good job of handling that. It wasn't a long film either. It was only about 2 hours long, which is not very long at all. I mean, it's very low considering some of the other movies in the MCU, but like I said, it's a lot more fun than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this movie is going to have the lasting leg power that this thing should have, because we're heading into a stacked holiday, including next week we've got The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Trolls Band Together also comes out, Next Goal Wins, the new Taika Waititi film, and then Thanksgiving weekend you've got the new Disney animated feature Wish. Those movies are probably going to do very well. Beyonce has a movie coming out in December as well, not to mention the Christmas rush films, including Wonka, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and The Color Purple. I mean, it's going to be pretty stacked for some blockbusters, so this thing is going to really come and go. I think maybe the movie's biggest mistake was when Dune moved out of the November 3rd release date. Disney should have taken that date and give this movie 2 weeks to really find an audience, because, like, last week, nothing came out, and Five Nights at Freddy's was basically there to just basically be the #1 film because there was nothing else out there for people to go see. So I think Disney is really kicking themselves on that front for not putting this out the weekend before and just putting it out on this weekend. You only gave it 1 weekend to actually do anything, and it didn't really do anything. And unfortunately, this thing's probably not going to make a lot of money in the long run. I think the worldwide gross up to this point right now is about $88 million for this thing that I'm assuming costs around $250 million, I think it is. Because that's pretty much what the other movies in the MCU have cost. Let me see. More than that, 274 gross, 219 net. That says the box office in total is at 110.3 million worldwide, which is not the greatest start per se, and it's another costly flop for Disney this year. And they haven't made a lot of bad movies this year. I mean, there's been some films that they've made that have not been great, but the worst thing I think they made this year was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and even then, there's still elements of that film I did enjoy. I did like Indiana Jones. I did like The Little Mermaid. I did like Elemental a lot. Elemental is one of my favorite films of the year so far, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do with The Wish coming up, and especially getting a chance to see the Once Upon a Studio short on the big screen. That's going to be something to really, really get excited about seeing. I'm definitely looking forward to that, but yeah, it has not been a good year for the Mouse House, but let's just say that other studios have not been so lucky either, and one studio in particular continues to peeve off its fans, whatever fans are left. But before we get to that, we'll get to that as we move along here. But like I said, we have a ton of news stories to get to here. I'm looking at the list here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories to get to. So we have a lot of things to delve into here, but let's get to the biggest story of the week, which took place on a Wednesday night. So on Wednesday night, we reached the 118-day point of the actors being on strike, and there was basically a situation where the Hollywood studios basically said, "Look, you have until 8 o'clock. You have until 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to decide on whether or not to agree to this deal." And I'm not gonna lie, 20 minutes before the deadline, I was really thinking to myself, "Yeah, this thing's not gonna go away anytime soon. We're gonna keep having this going on for a couple more weeks because the negativity between the studios and the guilds didn't seem like they were really going anywhere for a long period of time. And then on Wednesday night, when that 8 o'clock deadline finally hit, and they finally said, "We've done it. We're going back to work." SAG-AFTRA and the studios agreed to a tentative deal on a new contract that could see Hollywood up and running again within a matter of weeks, and we're already seeing that process taking shape. Let me read the story here from Deadline. The strike will be over at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, this past Thursday, putting an end to more than 7 months of labor unrest in Hollywood that saw the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA hitting the picket lines in industry for the first joint strike in more than 60 years. Culminating a dramatic day of studio earnings results and deadline ultimatums, the Actors Guild's 17-member negotiating committee unanimously voted this afternoon to reach a tentative agreement to the SAG-AFTRA board. So almost immediately after that, you started hearing the stories about everybody going back to work. Disney tried to get as many people to the movie, as many of its actors and stars from the Marvel Cinematic Universe out there. I think Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston both were on The Tonight Show a couple of days after the strike had taken place. And so it's to promote the last episode of Loki and also the Marvels. Let me see if I can find the details of some of the things that are in this deal, because unlike the Writers Guild, the deal that they signed, there are things about this deal that are not quite there's not as many things all across the board that they got most of what they wanted, but they didn't get everything of they wanted. I'm going over to the Washington Post here to see the story about what actors won in the Screen Actors Guild strikes deal, and let me see if I can find it here. Okay, here we go. Fran Drescher, who was the Screen Actors Guild president, and Duncan Crabtree Ireland. Detailed terms of the deal included what they called more than $1 billion in new... sorry for once. Got all these ads popping up here. What they call more than $1 billion in new wages and benefit plan funding over the 3-year term of the contract. Crabtree Island told the Post on Wednesday the figures represented gained more in the contract over the existing contract, and on Friday, SAG called it the largest such deal in industry history. A new fund to compensate performers for their work on streaming shows. SAG-AFTRA did not specify, however, how much studios would contribute and how the union would be distributing money from the fund. Variety previously reported that the union initially wanted 2% of streaming revenues and later halved that demand to about $500 million a year before settling to around $40 million a year, which, I don't know, that seems like a steep drop-off to me, but I digress. But an immediate 7% wage increase for many performers and an 11% increase for background actors. Those wages would increase again by smaller amounts in 2024 and 2025. What Crabtree Ireland called new terms to ensure that sets have proper hair and makeup services for all performers, including those who have diverse and textured hair and complexions. A requirement that intimacy coordinators have be hired for scenes involving nudity or simulated sex. But the thing that everyone was really looking into this with is the thing about AI. The big thing. It's its own individual section on here, and it says, at the news conference, Fran Drescher described months on and off talks with the studios as an epic that involved her sharing Buddhist wisdom with the studios. She said the issue of artificial intelligence was one of the last and most difficult issues to be resolved in light of widespread fears among actors that rapidly advancing technology will be used to simulate their likenesses and eventually replaces them. They talk about the safeguards against encroaching technology that they have here. Includes a requirement that actors, including background performers, give studios informed consent and getting fair compensation for the creation of any digital replicas. This consent can not be obtained at the front end. It has to be obtained at the time of use. It can't just be a boilerplate sentence that says, I give away the rights to use this replica in perpetuity throughout the universe. It has to be a specific toy boat, a specific description of what the intended use is so that the performer can make an informed decision about whether they want to agree to that or not. What Crabtree Ireland called a specific standard to compensate actors that agree to be digitized, which factors in the amount of work that would have to be done by the actors themselves if they have done the same type of work that the digital replica is being used for. We have explicit language explicitly covering performance capture work for the first time. So really, that is one of the big things that they were really concerned about. And like I said, it was one of the last things they were really fighting for, was the fact that they were worried about AI and the future of where that was going. And if you've seen movies that have used AI, they do not use it very well, especially from major studios. Go watch the movie Prom Pact on Disney Plus and see what I'm talking about. Like, some scenes in there, like, you could tell these people do not look like real people. They look like computers. I mean, just good Lord. But, like, I'm glad to see that they got most of what they wanted. It doesn't seem like they got everything they wanted, but I think they got just a good enough deal to say, we're willing to compensate for this, but we want to end this strike. So it is good to know that they are able to figure out what they needed to do to end the strike, and at least for the next 3 years, we're back to work now, so we can finally get those big new releases back out in time without any more delays or distractions whatsoever. One would hope, but yeah, we got to talk about some changes they've made. So yeah, not but a couple of hours after the deal was made to go back to work, Disney already started to make changes to their releasing schedule. There was a couple movies in the MCU that were supposed to come out, but that changed. So let me kind of run down everything that happened. So Deadpool 3, which was supposed to kick off the summer in May of 2024, is now going to be back in July of 2024. They moved it from May 3rd to July 26th. So that means Captain America New World Order is probably moving up, right? No, that's moving back to Valentine's 2025. So that's now two movies that were set to be big releases in 2024 for Disney being pushed back to the next year. The other one being, actually three movies, I'm more think about it. Snow White is also being pushed back, as well as Pixar's Elio, which means that, if I'm not mistaken, there's only a couple of big new releases to start off the year for Disney in 2024, with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out in Memorial Day, and then you have Inside Out 2 in June, and then Deadpool 3 in July. So I don't know what they're planning on doing with those months in between January, February, March, and April. I don't know if they're just going to let it just be a dumping as a blank space for them or not, but it's interesting that they have not put anything in those places just yet. But we'll see what happens as we move along here. But in other news, Marvel's anti-hero-centric movie Thunderbolts, starring Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan, has moved to July 25th, 2025, after what was going to be released in December 2024. Blade, starring Mahershala Ali, has once again been delayed is back from February 14th, 2025 to November 7th, 2025. So both Blade and Thunderbolts were planning on going into production this summer, but didn't have the scripts ready to go when the writer shut down in May. At this stage, Marvel now just has one film on the 2024 calendar, which is Deadpool 3. Fantastic Four, which did not move, is still set to open in May of 2025. So that's a good sign, one would hope. But they also pushed back one of the big sequels coming out, Mufasa the Lion King, which is technically a live-action prequel to the Lion King movie from 2019. They pushed that back to when Thunderbolts was going to open up on December 20th, back from July 5th. So that one's going to be weird. They got Barry Jenkins to direct that, and he also did Moonlight, which won Best Picture, of course, a couple years ago. But such a weird choice right there to get direct that movie. I'm very tempted to see what they could do with that one. But they talk about Deadpool 3. They talk about all the stuff about going on. We found out that Deadpool's dog is going to be in this new movie, which is going to be pretty freaking awesome to see. Dog is like I feel like that character is going to take off when this movie comes out. One would hope, but Captain America New World Order, the reason why that's getting pushed back is because apparently they're reshooting a lot of stuff. They had negative test screenings of stuff that they did in that movie, so apparently they're going to reshoot a lot of stuff in there, which does not sound pretty good, but it's Anthony Mackie as Captain America in a big screen movie. How can you not be excited for that? Venom 3, which is Sony, pushed back from July 12th to November 8th in order to provide more of a cushion for them to get that done. I'm trying to see if there's anything else in this particular news story here that hasn't been said already. In here they talk about the Dogpool, which he looks pretty cool. Like, I love that design overall, and like I said, I think Ryan Reynolds says it best. Did Dogpool save the day? Not a chance in Gremlin Hill, but she is currently causing the Disney plushie merchant department nightmares. I mean, this thing's probably going to take off in a big way, and I'm actually kind of really excited to see where they go from there with that. But bottom line, we've only got one MCU film coming our way in 2024, and that is Deadpool 3, which looks like it's going to be a ton of fun regardless. I love the first two Deadpool movies, so needless to say, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do there. So that's cool to see that. And it was also cool to see Dogpool for the first time. So some changes at Disney, and Disney is making a ton of news in another area too, regarding Hulu. So last week, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Disney bought up the rest of Hulu for $8.6 billion, and now it was revealed this week in a conference call with Bob Iger that Disney Plus and Hulu will launch a beta test of an app next month that combines both the services of Disney Plus and Hulu into a single experience for subscribers of both services. The story comes from Variety, and basically, they talk about how Disney still needs to close its deal with Comcast to buy out NBC Universal's 33% stake in Hulu, which of course was the filing from last week, they said. But they said that Iger said that we remain on track to roll out a more unified one-app experience domestically, making extensive general entertainment content available to bundle subscribers via Disney+. Iger said of the Musk House's earning calls for the September quarter. A beta version of the Disney Hulu app will launch in December for subscribers of the two-service bundle, giving parents time to set up parental controls, according to Iger, who explained that Disney Plus characters will be able to access adult-oriented Hulu content ahead of the official launch in spring 2024. The company expects Hulu on Disney Plus to result in increased engagement, greater ad revenue, reducing customer acquisition costs, and lower churn, Iger said. Iger's comments came after he announced earlier this year that the media conglomerate was preparing a one-app experience in the U.S. and incorporates Hulu coming into Disney Plus. At the time, he said the new combined offers will be launched by the end of 2023, available to customers who subscribe to both streaming services. Disney offers the price discounted bundle of Disney Plus and Hulu with ads for $9.99 per month and $19.99 per month without ads, but currently customers must use separate apps to stream each one. The combination of Disney Plus and Hulu into one app also will potentially pave the way for Disney to launch the Hulu brand globally. The Disney-operated Hulu service is available only in the United States. In Japan, the brand is licensed to Nippon TV. The standing theory of Wall Street is that Disney, even after securing operational credit of Hulu, has avoided launching it outside of the U.S. in order to not increase Hulu's value, which would mean paying more to buy out Comcast's stake. So basically, we're going to get a test of what this is going to be like next month with Disney Plus and Hulu coming together. And really, I think it's a smart move. I mean, they have Hotstar over in, I think it's in England, where they have Disney Plus and Hulu already on there. So why not bring the two services together? The only thing I'm really worried about mostly is the fact that I have Disney Plus, I have Hulu, I just paid... I have the money ready to go for when they up the prices to $133 a year, so I'm already ready on that front. But so I'm really trying to figure out what's going to happen here with both my Disney Plus and Hulu. Will they merge when they merge? Will I have to pay for a separate system, or will both of them be merging to be paid together in the long run? I don't really know how that's going to play out here, but it's a beta test, so we'll see how that works, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But this is a long time coming, honestly. I feel like they've been trying to merge these two together for a long period of time, but yeah, it's going to be cool to see that. Like, I like the idea of having, classic Mickey Mouse cartoons and the Disney animated classics right there with Family Guy and Bob's Burgers and all those type of shows. Shows that I think should have been on Disney Plus by now, specifically the Bob's Burgers stuff. I mean, The Simpsons is on there, but Bob's Burgers I feel like could have easily been put on there as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works. We'll see what happens. That's just don't really have too much more on that one. That was just one of the bigger stories that came out this week. And I think it's interesting to see how that will play out. But, Bob Iger, let's just say that he has been, his credibility for the last couple of months has not been as strong as it has been in the past. I mean, the stuff he said at the beginning of the strike, basically saying that the demands that actors were asking for were too unreasonable, which he said this a day after he signed a multi-year contract to stay with the company. But as bad as he is, he's still not as bad as David Zaslav, who continues to find ways to fuck up his own studio. So yeah, you remember how at the beginning of the year David Zaslav said that they were no longer going to stop shutting down movies that were well into production and nearing completion just for tax write-offs? Remember when he said that at the beginning of the year? Well, guess what? Not but a day and a half after the strike ended, he canned another project. Coyote vs. Acme, which was supposed to be a live-action CG Looney Tunes animated hybrid, has been shut down by Warner Brothers and is being written off as a tax write-off, and the move comes as the veteran animated executive Bill Damaski took over Warner Animation Group earlier this year. And there's a statement here from David Green, the director of the film, talking about this, saying, "For 3 years, I was lucky enough to make a movie about Wile E. Coyote, the most persistent, passionate, and resilient character of all time. I was surrounded by a brilliant team who poured their souls into this project. Along with the ride, we were embraced by test audiences who rewarded us with fantastic scores." We'll get to that in just a minute, but the feature, which sources believe cost around $72 million to make, had key Warner's talent involved in front of the camera and behind the scenes. It stars John Cena, who stars in Max's popular DC show Peacemaker, and DC Studios co-head James Gunn produced the film and worked on the story. Warner's its intent on staying in business with filmmaker Green and is developing a project at sister movie arc New Line Cinema. According to our WB spokesperson, with the relaunch of Warner Brothers Pictures Animation in June, the studio has shifted globally to focus on theatrical releases. With this new direction, we have made the difficult decision not to move forward with Coyote vs. Acme. We have tremendous respect for the filmmakers, cast, and crew, and all grateful for their contributions to the film. Bullshit. But the previous Warner's regime greenlit the film in December 2020 as a production for HBO Max. It was later announced that Coyote would get a release on July 21st, 2023, which of course didn't happen. And of course Barbie ended up taking that day, and I guess it paid off for them in the end. But the film was based on an idea on Ian Fraser's Coyote vs. Acme, a humor article published by The New Yorker in 1990. Warner Brothers is seeking to release 2 animated films a year with upcoming projects, including the Locksmith animation feature, Bad Fairies, The Lunar Chronicles. It has several Dr. Seuss adaptations in the works, Cat in the Hat, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and sources say that Damasky is looking to shift the focus of Warner Brothers Animation to strictly theatrical movies, as well as producing original films, as well as films based off the studio's IP, including Looney Tunes, which a couple weeks ago they announced that the Porky Pig and Daffy Duck movie that they were going to do for HBO Max is supposedly getting a theatrical release. But let's go back to what this all relates to. Warner Brothers shelved the $90 million Batgirl and the $40 million animated feature Scoob Holiday Haunt in August 2022 as a tax write-off, with newly installed WB CEO David Zaslav seeking to find $3 billion in savings across the newly rated medium conglomerate. Both Batgirl and Scoob were intended for streaming, and Zaslav also shifted strategies in favor of theatrical releases. The move caused an outcry among the creative community. Sources say that the studio in this case at least gave the filmmakers advance notice of the decision, which I don't think they really did, but in a statement Thursday, Green concluded, I am beyond proud of the final project, beyond devastated by Warner Brothers' decision, but in spite of the Wile E. Coyote, resilience and persistence wins the day. Hey, David, I have some ideas of getting rid of that, of trying to save $3 billion. Get rid of all those stupid reality shows that they're trying to turn the studio into. This is another one of those stupid decisions where the head of the studio is basically saying, I do not give a shit about the Looney Tunes, and or any of these characters that we have in our library here. I want to make big screen movies, and I want the focus of our studio to be these god-awful shows that we have over the Discovery Channel. We want those to be the full focus of this new Warner Brothers. And you know what I have to say to that? Fuck you, David Zaslav. I mean, this guy, it's asinine how this guy still has a job after all these years. And you know what the worst part about Coyote vs. Acme is that getting canned? The film scored well with people who saw the film. Let me see if I can find the part in the story where it says that. Give me 1 second. So this comes from Deadline Hollywood, where they continue on with the story here. It's a $30 million write-down on this movie, which makes no sense whatsoever. It says the difference here is that Coyote vs. Acme is a completed movie with very good test scores, 14 points above the family norm. We're told that the cash-strapped Warners found that it was not worth the cost to release the film theatrically or to sell to other buyers. Why? Are you not sending this out to other people? You could have sent this out to Amazon, and Amazon said they were even thinking about it. They saved the Batman shows, the Batman Cape Crusader show, as well as the Merry Little Batman, which we're supposed to be getting next month, I believe. But after reporting a mixed third quarter, the best means for Warner's money is a tax write-off, which, God help you if Bart is, heaven forbid that you could have used the money that you got from Barbie's big success, $1.4 billion worldwide, to sell this movie to people. But nope, sorry, it's just so ridiculous that this is yet another, it's yet another thing that just makes no sense. And they go into further details about this. How ironic. Zaslav was involved in getting a new 3-year deal between AMP, the actors as exhibition, and the Burbank Studios, who were starving for theatrical projects in 2024, with several titles moving and leaving gaps. Certainly there's a movie to be made on a much-finished film based off of Looney Tunes IP, Space Jam: A New Legacy, saw its ticket sales siphoned by the previous Warner Media's administration's theatrical day-and-date model during the pandemic. Still, the movie made $70 million and another $93 million for a $163 million global take. So, yeah, dumbass. Let me keep going here. I'm told is according to this is from the article. I'm told that a Max launch on Coyote versus Acme isn't a proper platform for the movie. There was buzz out there that the Gary Doberman directed James Wan produced feature take on Stephen King's Salem's Lot, once destined for a theatrical release, is going to Max as the streamer needs product due to the inventory deficiencies created by the strikes. Or you know what? You couldn't have. Maybe you couldn't have. Maybe you would have had some content if you didn't get rid of all those animated shows that you clearly. David Zaslav clearly has a problem with animation in general, because a lot of those shows that got canceled when they started doing the write-offs were all animated shows. Close Enough, Looney Tunes cartoons, I mean, the Sesame Street shows, like all those kids shows in general. And now they're talking about, like, we can't get kids and families to come into this. Dumbass, you're the reason why they can't do that. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. So Warner says in regards to Salem's Lot that the jury is still out and its brass hasn't determined the vampire pig's fate yet. Still, King is a brand name at the box office, so are the Looney Tunes, and this is one of his classics, and the Looney Tunes are classic as well, and horror works vibrantly at the box office post-pandemic. Surely a $10 million bare minimum box office opening isn't the worst thing for a movie that will get legged out on Max, but it boils down to Warner's will shell out $40 million in marketing costs. I mean, I really don't think I need to say anything else. I think this article perfectly sums up everything that's wrong with this motherfucker. I'm trying to see what else is here. Like, there's nothing really else to say here, but you get what I'm trying to say here. This is a stupid idea by so many levels. The film tested well. This is just clearly David Zaslav showing everybody how much he hates animation, how much he hates kid stuff, and how much he hates the fact that his precious Discovery Channel shows, their god-awful reality shows, are not the forefront of this new company. Like, I don't care about a 90-Day Fiancé universe, Warner is David Zaslav. I don't care about that. I don't care about these terrible shows that you have mixed in with shows that actually are warranted for something of value to them. Like, I don't care about the 90-Day Fiancé. I don't care about the Property Brothers. I don't care about I was about to say Chip and Joanna Gaines, but I don't even think they're on there anymore. But nobody gives a crap about these stupid reality shows. They come to Warner Brothers to see stuff like the DC films. They took the DC universe. They come here to see the Cartoon Network shows. Harry Potter, Friends, Game of Thrones, Big Bang Theory, Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry. That's where they go to Warner Brothers for. They don't go to Warner Brothers to see what the hell's going on stupid reality shows that is where idiots get the attention because that's what dumb America wants. Like, they want these stupid reality shows to be the forefront of television and in general make people want to turn it off, because it's just, I clearly hate reality television, as you can see here. Like, I've gone off on The Bachelor several times, so I don't really think I need to justify my hatred for it, but like, this guy clearly is not hiding the fact that he hates that his studio is not a conglomerate for his terrible reality shows, and the shows that make Discovery Channel not the former smart network that you go to actually learn some stuff. Like, they still have stuff like Deadliest Catch and Shark Week, but it's always stuck behind some terrible shows like Dr. Pimple Popper, or actually, is Dr. Pimple Popper even? I don't think that's even Discovery Channel. I think that's something else. The Learning Channel. It's a Learning Channel, but it's the Learning Channel, Discovery Channel. It is the same company. So basically, yeah, nobody wants to. I'm sorry, like, that show does not fascinate me in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't want to see these people having these bizarre skin disorders for. Like, to me, that's just not entertainment for me. Like, I really don't know what kind of an education I'm supposed to get from that, per se. But again, that's just my take on that. But my whole point on this whole thing is that David Zaslav is a fucking idiot. And when this day finally comes, that he has finally shown the goddamn door from Warner Brothers finally gets tired of his bullshit. And if the day finally comes when Universal comes in and buys Warner Brothers, I'm going to be so happy. And when that day finally comes when Zaslav gets fired, I'm going to be like Bender when from Futurama. There's an episode where he enters a tap dancing contest, and his competitor is this little girl who ends up beating up his shin, and she ends up having a heart attack on the stage, and everybody's so down and out when she's on her death's door bed, and Bender all of a sudden comes up and goes, "Yeah, in your face, little girl. I'm not even going to wait until you're in the casket. I'm going to dance all over your stomach right now. Now he's just doing a jig on her, and everybody's just like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" Like she ends up saving the day. He ends up saving her life in the end. But that's gonna be me when that day comes that David Zaslav finally gets fired and his career is completely over. I'm gonna be dancing on top of his body like that, and like. Same thing will happen when that expose eventually comes out about Taylor Swift, but that's a whole other story altogether. But so we've talked about some major news stories. How about a story that's not really a story, but people apparently wanted to make a big deal out of it anyway? So there was a story on IGN that came out last week, and it was a story that really should not be a big deal regardless, but as soon as that story came out on IGN, everybody all of a sudden just completely just stopped what they were doing. I mean, yeah, I know there was an actor strike still going on as early as last week, but this was so freaking stupid that they actually made a story about this. After 34 years, The Simpsons is stepping away from senseless violence. That's right, Homer will no longer strangle Bart. This is literally how the article starts. During an episode of The Simpsons that aired, Homer reveals he finally changed his ways when he and Marge visited their new neighbor Thayer after introducing himself to the Springfield newcomer. Thayer comments on how firm his handshake is and says, "See, Marge, strangling the boy paid off." And he said, "Just kidding. I don't do that anymore. Times have changed." And I've got the clip right here, so let's listen in real quick.
Whoa, that's quite a grip. See, Marge, strangling the boy has paid off. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore. Times have changed.
There you go. That's the one. Is 10-second line, and everybody completely lost their mind over this. But let's really delve into this. There's some things I forgot to tell you about with this story. So this happened. So you're thinking that this happened in a more recent episode, maybe during the Treehouse of Horror episode, but that aired on that same day, I should say. But nope. This happened 3 weeks ago. On an episode called McMansion and Wife. It's the third episode of season 35. I know this because I saw this episode, and I know that this scene happened because it's literally in the first 5 minutes, and even then, it's a 10-second bit. Why are we losing our mind over this 3 weeks later? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever why this is even a story to begin with. And it's clear that the people who've been watching this clearly have no idea that The Simpsons is actually good again, and you haven't even noticed maybe that Homer doesn't strangle Bart as much anymore. It's been like this for a while now. Like it says here in the article, the last time Homer strangled Bart was back in season 31 between 2019 and 2020. It's been a topic of contention long before that Homer attending a father enrichment class back in season 22 when he was a basketball player played by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar teaches Homer a lesson, strangling him in result. So that happened almost 13 years ago. So why are we making a big deal out of this? You know who's making a big deal out of this? The people that don't watch The Simpsons anymore. Because if you watch The Simpsons, like I said, you would know that the show actually has gotten better in the last couple of years. I've done videos talking about how The Simpsons has gotten better over the last couple of years. And you know what? They don't do a lot of the same running gags they used to do back in the day. And I say good. It's as long as the show is still entertaining, and that's not the only things that I look to regardless, that's fine with me. Like, I don't care. Like, I really do not care if Homer strangles his son ever again, which, you know, the producers eventually saw with this and basically called these people out on this. This was a story that came out just a couple of days later. This is from Variety. Homer Simpson's reported decision to stop strangling his son Bart has fans talking, at least on the internet. That's what everyone, of course, has an opinion. Now, the executive producer behind The Simpsons has put together a response in animated form, and this is this really hilarious this piece of animation where Homer's strangling Bart and Homer saying, "Why you little clickbaiting?" thing, and it's basically Homer strangling Bart with a phone that says "Simpsons no more strangling," and their one comment is that they said Homer Simpson was unavailable for comment as he was busy strangling Bart, and more power to him, man. That's great. That's a great way to basically call off the blowback, because there is no reason why this needed to be news whatsoever. I saw people making videos about this for no reason whatsoever. Like, the fact that this thing set off millions of social media posts and think posts, like, it really does not make any sense whatsoever. And basically, a lot of these people became the real-life version of the Abe Simpson meme, old man shakes fist at cloud. I mean, this is how it really has gotten. I like how it also says here, but as noted by true Simpsons fans, which I am, Homer had actually stopped strangling Bart several seasons ago, with the last documented event taking place during season 31. The show's producers and loyal viewers were taken aback by the rabid reaction this past week, given the fact that this is actually old news. 3 weeks old. Why wasn't anybody saying this beforehand? Like, why wasn't anybody saying this when this episode came out on October 22nd? Because they needed something to talk about. Because they want to badmouth The Simpsons, because they still are this belief that, oh, The Simpsons hasn't been funny in over 20 years. It's like, if you get those people, the last time is, ask them, if you get one of those people, just ask them one simple question. When's the last time you watched The Simpsons? And you know what their response is going to be? Oh, I haven't watched it in 20 years. I just saw it because it was on social media. There you go. You need to shut the hell up. I mean, because you're not making any sense right now. And, like, there are things that you can there are rightful criticisms towards the show, but that I've talked about it before, like the whole thing about Marge's voice. Like, everyone's like, well, Marge is getting up there in age. Julie Kavanaugh shouldn't be doing this anymore. They shouldn't be forcing her to do this. Nobody's really forcing her to do this. If she really needed to retire and doing that voice, don't you think she has more than enough rights to go up to them and say, hey guys, I feel like I need to take this, I need to retire from this character and hand it off to somebody else. No, she clearly is having fun playing that character after so many years. And in the last couple of years, there's been episodes that have done a pretty good job of using that to her advantage. Like last year's Halloween episode in the Poopadook segment actually worked very well, where she's basically the Babadook in that one. And then this year we had a great episode where, Marge has to basically come to the fact that she's going to get older and everybody's going to eventually get away from her at some point. There's this really great episode, I'm trying to remember what it was called, A Mid-Childhood's Night's Dream. It's the second episode that aired this year. And basically you have a story, it's a story where Marge has food poisoning and she ends up getting these nightmares about her children growing up too fast and leaving her as an empty nester. And she's trying to help with the preparations for this Bountathon event, which Bart and Lisa which Bart's growing out of, and Lisa's still very much in love with. And it's a very good episode, and it's a really good emotional episode. Like, a lot of these episodes, like, what I like about what The Simpsons has been doing nowadays is that they're kind of returning to what made the original season so special in terms of the emotional aspects. But it's not just the emotional aspects from the struggles of the original series. Like, the struggles of dealing with schoolwork, the struggles of dealing with baldness, the struggles of dealing with possible marital affairs. Like, you're dealing stuff with anxiety, like in this episode, being an empty nester, the fear of missing out, all these different elements here. And they've been doing a really good job at handling these storylines. And I think a lot of people sadly overlook this fact because of the fact that it's not the same Simpsons that it was 20 years ago. It's like it's gone away, but like you could still find every episode on here. You can even find the banned episodes like Stark Raving Dad. Like, you can still go find them in stores somewhere, and they're still on. And that episode is still online somewhere. Like, I hate that it is still a banned episode, because the thing that caused it to be banned turned out to be absolute bullshit, and that was the Michael Jackson Finding Neverland documentary, which even the people that made it clearly admitted that this was something that there was nothing in there that everybody didn't know about already. But that's one of those stupid decisions, but that The Simpsons have done that I can't really get behind per se. Like, I still think that episode should be seen by everybody because it's a really good episode. The way they handled Apu's exit hasn't been really that strong, although someone said that they were going to tackle that this year, so I don't know if they're still going to do that or not, but I don't know. Like, I feel like that this whole thing with everybody losing their mind about Homer not strangling Bart anymore, it's clickbait. it's just really clickbait. If you didn't notice it 2 weeks ago when you were on social media and you saw people saying stuff like, "Oh, Homer says he doesn't strangle his son anymore," this would not be a big news story. But I think because we had the writer's strike, we had not the actor's strike going on, and there was nothing else to talk about, this had to be the big news story that everyone had to cover. And like, it's one of those things where the Animaniacs Please Get a Life Foundation really needs to come into place, because you people really need to get a life, man. Like, you've got a problem with The Simpsons? Don't watch The Simpsons anymore. You know what? I still like The Simpsons. It's a Sunday tradition in my home, so I'm still gonna watch it regardless of what anybody says. So, yeah, I don't care that Homer doesn't strangle his son anymore. And even if he doesn't, okay, it was a good run while it lasted. You know, there's other running gags in the show that they don't do anymore. Nothing explodes on, nothing gets randomly set on fire anymore. Nobody ever says anything about that. Mr. Burns doesn't forget Homer's name anymore. Bart doesn't prank call Moe as much as he usually does. I mean, there's been a lot of running gags from this show that have been not been there for a long period of time. But this is the one that we're getting really upset about. Like, just get a life, people. Seriously, like, I wanted to talk about that because that just really irked me that people out there made this a much bigger story than it had any right to be. This did not need to be a big story for something that happened 3 weeks ago. If you didn't figure it out, if you didn't see it 3 weeks ago, then you shouldn't be. Then it shouldn't even be bothering you to begin with. So that's pretty much what I have to say about that one. So let's go ahead and get on to some more positive stories, at least, because this next story is a very positive story, at least in my opinion, it is. So we're really getting close to the 10-year anniversary of the Peanuts movie. It's hard to believe that movie came out in 2015, and in 2 years' time, we're going to be celebrating the anniversary of that. It was a really damn good movie. It was probably my favorite Blue Sky Studio film overall, and I was wondering why they never made a sequel to it. I think maybe it was because it was a one-movie deal with Blue Sky Studios and the Peanuts organization, and we never got that movie. I think they did say earlier this year that Disney was set to do that before they shut Blue Sky Studios down. So, but I mean, since then the Peanuts characters have really been showing up in a lot of stuff that you probably never even noticed because you don't watch stuff on Apple TV. Unfortunately, I still don't have an Apple TV subscription, but I do get free trials, and I do my best to try to catch up with all the new Peanuts specials. I gotta say, man, the new Peanuts specials that have been coming out have been absolutely incredible. I've really been impressed with what they were doing with these specials that they've been doing on there. It's one of those things that really does make me want to get Apple TV full time to really experience stuff like that. And then this week we got the cool news that Apple TV is working on a new Peanuts project, which is a new original Peanuts feature film. I'm reading the story here from Variety. Like I said, Apple TV Plus has announced a new Peanuts original film from Wild Brain and Peanuts Worldwide. The film will follow Snoopy and Charlie Brown's biggest challenge yet, as the Peanuts characters embark on an epic adventure to the big city, learning the true meaning of friendship while meeting some surprising new friends along the way. Production from Wild Brain Studios will begin in 2024. Talk about how the history of the Peanuts characters. Carrie Kirkpatrick, known for writing stuff like Chicken Run, Smallfoot, and Over the Hedge, 3 great animated films, by the way, co-wrote the screenplay from an original story by the Peanuts movie writers Craig Schultz, Brian Schultz, and Cornelius Oliano. And additionally, the Peanuts movie director Steve Martino will direct the new film, and 2-time Oscar nominee Bonnie Arnold, known for the How to Train Your Dragon franchise and Toy Story, will produce. So, right away, this is a must-see event because the Peanuts movie was a fantastic film. A lot of the same people behind that are working on this film. It has a great writer involved. I mean, this is a winner right from the get-go. This just makes me really want to see this more and more. It makes me really want to get Apple TV Plus the moment this comes on there because I have to see this movie, man. I was a big fan of the Peanuts movie back then. I've loved most of the Peanuts movies. I think the worst one, honestly, was Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, but I've talked about it before. A Boy Named Charlie Brown is one of my favorite movies of all time, which was actually the first time the Peanuts gang went to New York City, but it was basically Charlie Brown, Linus, and Snoopy, but now it looks like it's the whole gang all the way through. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking this out. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one pans out, so I'm really looking forward to seeing this. This made me very happy to start the week off. That was one of the big news stories of the week that got me right from the get-go, and like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out, So, on to the next story. So this was a weird story that shortly came out after the Peanuts story came out. And I saw this, I was just like, wait, what? Wait, am I reading something from 2005 again? Are you really doing this again? They're remaking The Longest Yard, which is, if you don't know what that was, it's the classic 1974 sports comedy with Burt Reynolds and Eddie Albert, and it was about Burt Reynolds, who's a former quarterback who's sent to prison for shaving points off of a football game, and the warden wants him to gather these convicts together to play the security guards in the game of football. And eventually, they're seen as the outcasts and the people that are not expected to win because the guards are so much tougher and are more likely to beat them, and they end up winning in the end. This was later remade into a remake with Adam Sandler in 2005, which I gotta say, man, I really like that movie a lot, especially when you consider that the original is an R-rated film and this is a PG-13 remake. Usually these are dead on arrival, but it really worked. It was actually really, really enjoyable, and I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. But now we have news of another remake in the works at Paramount Pictures. Rodney Barnes, who was an executive producer and writer on HBO's Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, is writing the script. It comes from Gunpowder and Sky, whose CEO Van Toffler was an executive producer on the 2005 film when he worked at the then MTV owner Viacom. Toffler is producing with former MTV Films producer David Gale, who were united with Toffler at Gunpowder and Sky, and also executive produced the Sandler version. It says here, The Longest Yard is a prison sports comedy. The original 1974 is directed by Robert Aldridge, based on a story by Albert S. Ruddy. Tracy Keenan wrote the script. It stars Reynolds' Paul-wrecking crew, who's sentenced to 18 months in Citrus State Prison, where he puts together the Mean Machine team to play the guards team. It was remade in 2005 as Sandler as a washed-up quarterback who puts together a team in prison for exchange for a reduced sentence. That had Chris Rock, James Cromwell, Nelly, Will Fichtner, and Burt Reynolds involved as well. In addition to Winning Time, Barnes has written and produced several shows such as The Boondocks, Everybody Hates Chris, Marvel's Runaways, American Gods, Wu-Tang, and American Saga. So he's made a lot of stuff that's very good for the most part. Barnes has a number of projects in development, including writing an adaptation of Ride Around Shining, which was in development with Jonah Hill's Strong Baby for Netflix. He's writing a miniseries about the life of Tiger Woods. He's behind the studios behind films such as Elizabeth Moss's Her Smell, Nick Offerman star Hearts Beat Loud, Showtime's Courtney B. Vance-led Heist 88, and it struck a motion picture deal with MTV Entertainment Studios following its Comedy Central Hot Mess movie starring Cal Penn. And I don't really see anything about how they're making this different to the remake that we already had. I mean, when I first heard about this, I thought we're remaking remakes now, and everyone said, well, I mean, The Wizard of Oz did it, and The Star is Born did it, but that's clearly, there's a difference between The Wizard of Oz, The Star is Born, and The Longest Yard. Like, The Wizard of Oz and The Star is Born are classic movies, and The Longest Yard isn't really a classic movie per se, but it's a great movie overall, don't get me wrong, but does it really need to be remade again? I mean, what more can you really do with this story that hasn't already been done not once but twice? Like, I just feel like this is going to be a really pointless remake. And you could say the Adam Sandler one was a pointless remake. In fact, Adam Sandler himself, if he had said, he doesn't think it's as good as the original and actually does not consider it one of his best works, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was actually pretty good for what it was, but then again, it's just me saying that. But I really don't see the purpose of remaking The Longest Yard. I really do not. I mean, I do not think that there's anything to this film that you can really bring to it that wasn't brought in 20 years ago. And people can still watch the movie on TV. It plays on TV every football season. Like around the Super Bowl, you'll see it on TV at least a couple of times on various networks. So it's not like this movie is not that old enough to really need a remake. Like, what more does a remake to The Longest Yard bring to the table here? I don't think it really brings anything to it, honestly. And it just feels rather pointless. But then again, a lot of remakes are very pointless. They're still trying to remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I know they were trying to do it once with Will Smith and Kevin Hart, which thank God that never happened, but they're still trying to put that together. I mean, they were trying to remake one of my favorite movies of all time, Bambi. My favorite movie of all time, I should say. But, let's actually try to look here. So actually, there was two different that they originally Will Smith and Kevin Hart had a version, and then they wanted Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, which I feel like is really pointless as well. But they're still trying to do it. Hopefully, that day will never come that this actually becomes a reality. But yeah, bottom line here is that there's no reason to remake The Longest Yard after the Adam Sandler movie came out, not but 20 years ago. I mean, it's like when they tried to remake Memento, not even 15 years after the original movie came out. Like, why? Are you really that desperate for ideas that's got to be your next target to go to, is these movies from the 2000s? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. hopefully that day comes when this is just something that somebody says we'll do it and we'll eventually never do it. Like when your best friend tells you, hey, I'll help you move tomorrow, and then they come and they never show up, and then you call them and it's just like, hey, where are you? Why aren't you here right now? I thought you said you were going to help me move. Oh yeah, I completely forgot. Hopefully this happens to this movie. Hey, remember that time that we said we were going to remake The Longest Yard again? Huh? I don't remember that. So, hopefully that is the case here, but, yeah. This is not a good... There's no reason to remake this movie. But, let's move on to the next story. So with the Super Mario Brothers movie being the gigantic success it was this year, needless to say, it led to a lot of possibilities of other Nintendo projects getting the big screen treatment. Everyone thought The Legend of Zelda was going to be the next one. I think a lot of us were expecting Illumination to get on board with making a film off of this. But Sony kind of beat everybody to the punch. They made the announcement this week that they are co-financing a live-action version of The Legend of Zelda with Nintendo, with Wes Ball, the director of The Maze Runner and the upcoming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, set to direct. Derek Connolly, who gave us Jurassic World, is penning the adaptation. The film is being produced by Ball and his production partner Joe Hartwick Jr. through their Oddball Entertainment banner. The video game, created by the Japanese gamer designers Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuki, launched in 1986. It follows the elf-like warrior Link and elegant Princess Zelda as they fight to save the magical land of Hyrule from the evil Ganon, an evil warlord turned Demon King. Nintendo saw huge success this season with Illumination's Universal's The Super Mario Brothers movie, an animated feature on the video game franchise. It ranks as the second highest-grossing film of the year, with $1.36 billion. More than 50% of Zelda will be funded by Nintendo, with Sony releasing theatrically worldwide. Now, to me, I think this is a very good decision to have for this movie to be made, mostly because of the fact that this thing is going to be mostly in the hands of Nintendo. I feel like this will be I have to think that Sony's looking at what happened with the Super Mario Brothers movie, where Universal basically said, you guys know what you're doing. We're going to let you have most of the creative control. Just do whatever you have to do to make this work. Let's see what you can do with this stuff here. And I think I think that if Sony is smart, they'll let them do whatever the heck they want. They'll let them have creative control on this, and they'll have a movie that finally can can actually be seen as a really good video game adaptation. Because this has the potential to be really damn good if done well. And considering that this director is doing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which we got the trailer for this past week, and looks pretty amazing, I'm really excited to see what they do here with this film. In terms of who they should get to play these characters, that's going to be very tough to say. I saw some people considering Tom Holland maybe for Link, but I don't know. I want to see somebody that is... They should get a relative newcomer to play Link, in my opinion. I don't think they should go after a recognizable name. You want to get a recognizable name for Zelda? I'd be more than okay with that. I'd be very curious to see who you potentially get to play that character in real life. Who could you possibly get for Zelda? I'm trying to think of somebody right off the top of my head. Somebody that actually did come to the top of my head, honestly. Hunter Schafer. If you don't know who this person is, she's a actress who is on the TV series Euphoria. She's also going to be in the new Hunger Games movie. She's like I said, she's on Euphoria. She plays a transgender high school student on that show who ends up having a relationship with the main character of Zendaya. And she's been in a couple of other things as well. Mother Mary, she's in Belle. Like I said, she's going to be Tiger Snow in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I think it'd be really cool to see her play Zelda. I think she fits that role very well. I think she'd be perfect for the role, honestly. That's the one person I would say, if you're going to go for like a big, if you're going to go for like a big name star that isn't like a huge name per se, she's the person I would go to here. I liked her in Euphoria a lot. I think she would be perfect for that role, honestly. And I'd be really curious to see if that actually would work out in the end. But, like I said, it needs to be done right. I think they got a good director in Wes Ball to handle this, so I think this could be pretty good. If they got the right people to do it, I think this could actually turn out very well. So yeah, that's that story there. So let's go ahead and move on to the last story we have. So the last story that we have here, what I thought was pretty amusing, and it's amusing for a number of different reasons. Elon Musk. There is a biopic being made about his life at A24 with Darren Aronofsky on board to direct. Yeah, let's read that again. An Elon Musk biopic is in development at A24 with Darren Aronofsky on board to direct. just those three elements there are funny on their own merits, because Elon Musk, you know, he had that. He's kind of like Bob Iger in a way. He had that great start to his success all over everyone kind of liked him at first, and then all of a sudden, as time going on, he goes on to buy Twitter, and now he's one of the most hated people in the world. And A24 has been known to make some pretty fucked up movies, and Darren Aronofsky's also been pretty known to make some pretty fucked up movies. Some good fun, pretty fucked up movies, but still some pretty fucked up movies. So this could be pretty interesting. Of course, Elon Musk just recently had an authorized biography about his life by Walter Isaacson come out in September, and it's going to serve as the basis of the film, with the writer Steve Jobs' book, previously adapted to the 2015 film of the same name, which is a very underrated movie. Michael Fassbender is actually really good in that film. It's directed by Danny Boyle. Was it Danny Boyle or was it David Fincher? Now I can't remember. I know Aaron Sorkin wrote that film, but now I need to know, because, yeah, Danny Boyle, I was right. But yeah, it's a very underrated movie that you should definitely check out. It was one of my favorite movies from that year. Variety reports that there was heated competition to option Isaacson's book from studios and filmmakers alike, with A24 ultimately winning the bidding war. And I think that was the best decision on their part, because A24 will let their directors and filmmakers usually do whatever the hell they want, and they will turn out a really bizarre film, but a really good film at times. Aronofsky, who recently directed The Whale, which won Brendan Fraser's Academy Award, is known for a surreal filmmaking style, which often includes psychological elements, stuff that includes like Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Mother, and for Black Swan, he was nominated for the Best Director, and Portman ended up winning Best Actress. Here's the story on Elon Musk. Musk first rose to prominence when he founded SpaceX, a spacecraft manufacturing company, in 2002. He was also an early investor in Tesla and eventually climbed the ranks to become the automobile giant's chairman, a position he stepped down from in 2018 after he was sued by the SEC. Project architect and CEO. Most recently, Musk made the controversial decision to purchase Twitter for $44 billion, rebranding it to X. Since taking over the social media platform, Musk has had several changes that have resulted in backlashes, including laying off a number of the company's employers, charging users for verifications, and removing headlines from links shared on the sites. He is currently the wealthiest person in the world, with Bloomberg and Forbes estimating his net worth to be more than $200 billion as of October. Musk himself even addressed the news on X, basically saying in response to the X News Daily, "Glad Darren is doing it. He is one of the best." So that's going to be. So I think that's very interesting to see that he's more than willing to let A24 do this. And considering how A24 can make some pretty screwed up movies, this could be pretty interesting to see how this pans out. In terms of who they should get, that's going to be tough to do. That's going to be a really tough thing. I'm seeing some names on the casting list for Variety. Nicolas Cage is a possibility. I mean, he does kind of look... I mean, him and Rami Malek, the other person they have here, do kind of look like Elon Musk. So I could definitely see them going that route. I see names like Matt LeBlanc, which would be very interesting to see. Brendan Fraser is a name that could possibly work. Kevin Durant is a great actor. We've seen in a number of films. Matthew Broderick, I feel like, is one they just threw in there just for the hell of it. John Hamm, maybe. I can probably see that maybe working. But the one that I think surprisingly, shockingly is crazy, but it just might be enough to make it work. Somebody suggested Kathy Bates. I'm looking at two pictures right now of Elon and Kathy Bates next to each other. I'm not going to lie. They do both kind of look similar. So that was, that's like... I really hope they don't do that. I really do hope they take this serious. They're going to take it seriously, but still, I thought that was pretty hilarious that they thought of Kathy Bates. It's kind of like when they said Conan O'Brien should be played by Tilda Swinton in the biopic about the late night wars of 2010. But like, when you look at it, it's just like, well, they do both kind of look alike, so I could definitely kind of see it working, but, I just hope it's a good movie, man. I mean, Steve Jobs was a really good film that came out in 2015. It fortunately did not get the reception that I think it deserved, but I'm hoping that this is going to turn out pretty well. I'm really tempted to see what they do with this, so I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it, especially if it's A24 and Darren Aronofsky, so more power to him. I think this could be pretty good. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it, even though you're probably really going to hate the main character all the way through, which you probably should do, but that's what the film has to decide for you to handle. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but it's been a long day. We had a lot of news stories to cover, so let's go ahead and wrap this up by looking at some recommendations for the week. So in terms of recommendations this week, the big new release is The Equalizer 3. I really like that movie a lot. I would recommend that. In terms of classic new releases coming out this week, there's a new special edition set of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse that's coming out. That's on Best Buy's website as well as Amazon's website. So I'd highly recommend getting that. In terms of classic new releases getting transfers for the first time, I think the one I'm really most excited about is The Last Picture Show from the Criterion Collection. The Last Picture Show is coming out. This is the film that stars Jeff Bridges and Sybil Shepherd. It's basically following a group of 1950s high schoolers coming of age in a bleak, isolated West Texas town that is slowly dying both culturally and economically. It's shot in black and white. It's going to be really fun to see. It's going to be really interesting to see that movie again on Blu-ray. But what I'm really excited about this is that not only do you get The Last Picture Show, but you also get the sequel directed by with a lot of the same people in there. Also directed by Peter Bogdanovich, who directed the original Last Picture Show, Texasville. And in the sequel, it's pretty much the same movie. It's 30 years later. Dwayne captured the high school football team, and JC was homecoming queen. The Texas town, the Wichita Falls, prepares for its centennial. Oil prices are down. Banks are failing. Dwayne's $12 million is in debt. His wife Carla drinks too much. His children are always in trouble. He's tomcats around with the wives of friends. JC's back in town after a mild, successful acting career life in Italy and the death of her son. Folks assume that Dwayne and JC will resume the high school romance, and Sonny is tired of in his mind, causing worries for his safety. Can these friends find equilibrium in middle age? Kind of came out at the same time as another sequel that came out more than a decade after the original film, The Two Jakes, which was not well received at the time, which was Jack Nicholson's only directorial effort. But this film was actually received a little bit better. And it is cool to see Jeff Bridges and Sybil Shepherd getting back together again, along with having Peter Bogdanovich in here, as well as seeing Tim Bottoms, Cloris Leachman, Randy Quaid. I'm really looking forward to seeing these in a higher definition restoration, a 4K restoration with this Criterion set that comes out. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking that up. That's probably my big classic recommendation for the week. But like I said, Equalizer 3, Spider-Man 1 and 2, and Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse get new sets this week. Definitely check those out. So, with that said, that's going to do it for another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. So thank you very much for watching. And if you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button, check out some other videos we've done, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode. So thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, we are out.